I have now done morning pages for over 100 days, and this is what I've learnt. In early January of this year, 2025, I decided to start writing morning pages. Now, morning pages are an exercise created and made famous by Julia Cameron in her book, The Artist's Way. So Julia wrote The Artist's Way in the early 90s, basically based on a course that she was teaching, and it's been around and well known in artists and creative circles ever since. I will admit, I actually avoided The Artist's Way for, well, all of the years until now, even though I'd heard about it for well over a decade, because I got a sense that it was a little bit woo-woo, and that's not really in my wheelhouse. But recently I was feeling a sense of creative stagnation, and I thought, what the hell, let's check it out. So I grabbed a copy from the library and I read the first few chapters. So because the book is a course, it's arranged as a course in weeks. So you've got the introductory section, and then you've got week 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Now, to this day, as of now, I've still only read the introductory section. I haven't actually read the rest of the book, but I liked the introductory section enough that I decided to buy my own copy and actually work through the entire book at some stage, which is coming up soon, and I'll talk to you more about that later in the video. But I'm actually working through it inside the Thriver Circle, my membership community for makers. If you want to join us for that, I'll tell you more later, but it's happening very soon. So in those introductory chapters, this is where Julia introduces the idea of both the morning pages and what she calls the artist's date. These are the fundamental exercises of the Artist's Way. And she also, in these chapters, explains the idea of the creative force that you're trying to tap into as part of this process. Now, she does kind of talk about what this creative force is, whether you want to call it God, whether you want to call it the universe, whether you just want to call it your subconscious, whatever it is, this is what you're trying to connect with through these exercises. So the idea is to not only connect with this force, whatever it might be, but also get past any creative blocks that you might be experiencing. So I decided to pause at this point and just work through these exercises for a while and see what happens. I mean, if they're the fundamental exercises, then surely there's something to them, right? I started with both practices, not only morning pages, but also the artist's date. But after a while, the artist's date kind of fell off a cliff, mostly because it involves a lot more effort. You know, you have to plan something, go somewhere, do something. The idea is to take yourself somewhere that inspires you once a week, whereas the morning pages is something very simple you can just do wherever you are, and it doesn't take that long. I mean, I usually already take myself out like once a week for a hike or to a cafe or for a swim, whatever it might be. So I just kind of think of this as gaining my inspiration rather than adding another practice on top of that. So for me, the artist's date felt a little bit onerous and a little bit forced. But the morning pages, generally speaking, were a different story. I actually struggled to articulate what it is about the morning pages that kept me writing. Now, I have never kept a regular journal in my life. There have been phases in my life where I have, but that has been when I have been struggling with something and I've been trying to work through some sort of issue, some sort of mental health struggle or some sort of emotional or relational struggle. That is when I tend to turn to journaling to get my thoughts out and, you know, try to make some sense of them and try to help myself make decisions. But when things are good, I've never stuck with a journaling practice because I didn't feel the need to. So before we keep going, I just want to explain for anyone watching who doesn't know what morning pages are. Basically, there is one rule. Every morning you have to get your journal and you have to write 3 pages of stream of consciousness thought. That's it. So I've already filled up this entire journal so far this year, and I'm on to my second one now. You can use whatever you like, whatever size you want. I think she talks about using an A4 like spiral bound notebook, but I like to have pretty notebooks, so that's what I use. There is a constraint around the practice. There is a container, there's an end game. All you have to do is fill 3 pages of whatever the heck is coming out of your brain. No judgment, no editing, and actually no need to ever go back to it again. She talks about that this is the point of the morning pages is not actually to ever go back and reread them. The point of it is to kind of clear out the creative channels and blocks and pathways and let creativity flow. Now, I know personally that it'll take me 10 to 15 minutes to get this done of a morning, And I don't always do it absolute first thing because my brain is like half asleep when I wake up. I usually read a little bit of something else or just kind of sit there and stare into the distance for a while. But eventually, most mornings, I will get my journal and then I will just start writing. I will admit there have been maybe a handful of mornings that I have forgotten and I've had to end up doing it in the evening instead. And maybe 1 or 2 days since I started this on January 11th where I have missed a day, but it's been very rare that I've missed a day. And I've done, at this point I'm recording this, well over 100 days of morning pages. And the fact that I'm not actually potentially really struggling with anything kind of frees me up. And I just usually start blabbing about what I did yesterday or what I'm planning on doing today. There's no real rhyme or reason. There's no goal for this. There's nothing I'm trying to fix. There's nothing I'm trying to solve. And sometimes it ends up happening anyway. Like I'll come up with, as I'm writing, something will just come out and I'll keep writing about it. And I didn't even realize it was an issue. Sometimes really positive things will come out of it. Sometimes ideas I'd never kind of thought of before or things I'd forgotten will come out of it. You never quite know when you start those 3 pages where you're going to end up. And that's part of the practice and part of the joy of it, I think. And to go back to the whole not coming back and reading it again, I think that's a really good thing for me because honestly, my hand struggles to keep up with my brain and my writing is mostly incomprehensible. If I go back and look at it, I'm like, what the heck was I writing there? But that's not the point. The point is just to write. The point is just to get the stuff out of you. And it's not about coming back to it in the future. It's just about making creativity happen without any particular goal. And there's a real amazing freedom in that. Like you're not creating for anyone. You're not creating even for yourself. You're just creating. You're not creating for an audience. You're not creating for any audience. You're just making and writing and getting thoughts out and just not caring about what happens. And how often do we do that? There's really something kind of addictive, kind of compelling about the morning pages practice. And even at this point, 100+ days in, I'm still not quite sure what compels me to keep going with it. I'm not quite sure why I've stuck with it this whole time. And look, I will admit there have been periods of resistance through this process. It was really easy for the first month and a half, but then I started to hit a bit of a wall at times where it felt like a bit of a chore to get it done. And interestingly, this kind of coincided with when I had started to work on my other creative projects more. So it was almost like I felt like the morning pages were holding me back from getting to those projects. But I realized that no, the morning pages are probably what enabled me to actually get going on those projects in the first place. Because they were things that I'd been kind of toying with or thinking about for a long time. But something about this process has really opened up my creativity. Yet I can't quite put a finger on what it is. I feel more excited, I feel more motivated, I feel more creative. And I can't help but think that the morning pages have made a difference. In fact, I plan on continuing, well, forever maybe? I certainly plan on continuing for as long as it takes to work through the rest of the book. It is a 3-month course basically, and I'm going to be starting on May 5th. So if you do want to work through it with a group of creatives, you are welcome to join us. All you have to do is become a member of the FREEBIES Circle. There are so many benefits to membership. There's the Your Year to Thrive course. There are monthly mini courses, live calls with me, community, and so much more. But for the next 3 months from May 5th, 2025, we are going to be working through this in a small group, those of us who've committed to the process. And so if you've been looking for a group to do this with, it is online, virtually, but we are going to be supporting each other through it. Feel free to come and join us in the FREEBIES Circle. As I said, I haven't actually read or done any more of this, so it's going to be as new to me as it is to anyone else coming into it for the first time. We actually have some people working through the course who have done it before, so that'll be really interesting to see their insights into the process. Whether or not you ever get the book or whether or not you ever work through The Artist's Way, I do strongly recommend trying the morning pages if nothing else. I mean, there's plenty of information out there, there's plenty of prompts and other videos of people who have worked through the morning pages. If you want a little bit more support, if you can, I really do recommend reading the first few chapters where she talks about how she developed the practice and why she thinks it's powerful and how other people have experienced it. I think it's really good to hear it from her. But honestly, it's so simple that anyone could just start it immediately after finishing this video. You get up in the morning and you write 3 pages of stream of consciousness thoughts. That is all you have to do. And who knows what might emerge. Have you worked through the artist's way? Do you do morning pages? Have you done it in the past? Let us know in the comments below. I'd really love to hear your opinion and your perspective and your experience as to what impact it has had on you and your creative journey. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye for now.